You're not lonely because you're alone. You're lonely because you believe you shouldn't be. In 2025, neuroscientists at Michigan discovered something that should terrify the self-help industry. People who believed solitude was dangerous felt 53% more lonely after being alone. People who believed it was an advantage felt 13% less lonely. Same empty room, opposite experience. The same silence that tortured one person restored another. This means the billions spent on connection apps, on community building, on teaching you to put yourself out there, all of it is treating a symptom while ignoring the disease. The disease is not your isolation. The disease is what you were taught to believe about it. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this 500 years before the MR1 machine existed. Yet he watched princes surrounded by allies collapse, while exiles who embraced their isolation became immortal. Today, I'm going to show you why the most powerful reframe you will ever learn is not how to escape loneliness, but how to stop letting the word itself control you. And this isn't philosophy. It's measurable, it's neurological, and it's reversible. But here's what nobody tells you. The pain you feel when you're alone is not imaginary. It's as real as a broken bone. And your brain processes it identically. The question is, why evolution built you this way, and how the crowd learned to weaponize that wiring against you. Your brain has a built-in social monitoring system. Think of it as a thermostat for belonging. It functions as a homeostatic regulator, alerting you when your social standing drops below a certain set point. The exact same way hunger signals nutritional deficit. When the group detects you pulling away, a region called the anterior cingulate cortex fires up. Here's what's terrifying about that. The anterior cingulate cortex is the exact same region that processes physical injury. Your brain literally cannot distinguish between a broken bone and an empty room. This is not weakness. This is 200,000 years of evolution screaming at you to return to the tribe. Because for most of human history, exile meant death. Getting pushed out of the group meant getting eaten by whatever was hunting in the dark. The social monitoring system was adaptive, when exclusion meant a lion's jaws. Now it's exploited by algorithms and industries that profit from your insecurity, so they pathologize you. They call it social anxiety. They call it attachment issues. But they call it avoidant personality. Clinical labels for what might simply be a mind that doesn't require constant herd stimulation. The question no therapist ever asks is this: who profits when you believe being alone is wrong? Economies run on consumption. Consumption requires you to care what others think. A person who is comfortable alone stops buying things to impress people. They stop performing for approval. They stop being a useful cog in the machine of endless comparison. A self-sufficient individual is an economic liability, an emotional anomaly, a threat to the entire system of manufactured need. Arthur Schopenhauer saw through this 2 centuries ago. He observed that those who cannot bear solitude are running from the emptiness of their own selves. He called them Philistines, yet they seek the herd as medication for their internal void. But the intellectually wealthy, those are his words. They find endless fascination in their own thoughts. They don't need the crowd because they've built something inside themselves that the crowd could never provide. Society cannot allow too many of them. They stop being useful cogs. And here's something that explains why so many of your friendships felt conditional. The group unconsciously enforces reciprocity of dependence. A friend who thrives alone threatens the dynamic. They expose the possibility that maybe, just maybe, the desperation that holds the group together isn't natural at all. It's manufactured, and that's unforgivable. So, if your brain is hardwired to punish you for being alone, and society is designed to exploit that punishment, what exactly are the solutions you've been offered? Let me show you why every conventional approach was guaranteed to fail from the start. The first approach is the fortress, isolation as escape. The weak man builds walls to hide from the world. Machiavelli called this the coffin, isolation born from fear rather than strength. Consider Louis XVI. When France began to starve, he retreated into Versailles. Gilded walls, endless luxury, total separation from reality. And when the mob finally came, those walls didn't protect him. They trapped him. The information blackout he created meant he couldn't see what was coming until it was too late. You see this pattern in modern executives who wall themselves off from dissent, from market signals, from anyone who might tell them the truth. Relational isolation destroys professional relevance. A fear-based isolation creates information blackout. You lose touch with reality precisely when you most need clarity. The second approach is the Connect More prescription. This is the self-help industry's core solution. Workshops, dating apps, community events. Put yourself out there. Force yourself into rooms full of strangers and smile harder. But the Michigan 2025 data proves something counterintuitive. Mandated connection actually increases loneliness. Why? Because every forced social interaction reinforces the implicit belief that being alone is pathological. You're not curing the disease, you're confirming it. Every networking event you drag yourself to guilty whispers the same message. You are broken for wanting to stay home. The solution treats the symptom, absence of people, while ignoring the cause, which is the internalized stigma about solitude itself. The third approach is the numbing strategy. The scroll, the swipe, the endless distraction designed to ensure you're never truly alone. What you think is solitude is actually connected solitude, physically alone, but digitally tethered to the hive's constant judgment. Every notification is an evaluation. Every DM is a test. Every likes count is a verdict. This is not solitude. It's surveillance disguised as entertainment. The social monitoring system never deactivates because you're never actually alone. You're perpetually observed. Now, here's what neuroscience has discovered about what happens in your brain when you are actually alone. Not scrolling, not swiping, not filling silence with noise. A network called the default mode network activates. And then this is the same network that fires during creativity, memory consolidation, and what researchers call eureka moments. Newton in quarantine inventing calculus. Darwin alone on his estate for decades developing the theory of evolution. Kafka in his midnight room producing literature that would haunt the 20th century. Their brains weren't suffering in solitude. Their brains were thriving in a state that the distracted cannot access. The default mode network is liberated to connect information in novel ways only when external input is removed. Here's the devastating implication. Every time you fill a silent moment with your phone, you're neurologically amputating the only part of your brain capable of original thought. You're not medicating loneliness. You're murdering creativity. The scroll doesn't soothe the pain, yet it just ensures you'll never build anything with it. So the fortress is a coffin. Connection is confirmation of pathology. Distraction is amputation. None of them address the core malfunction, the belief that being alone is wrong. Until you change the belief, every solution is treating a symptom. What's left? There's a fourth option, one that Machiavelli discovered in his exile, that Schopenhauer articulated in philosophy, that neuroscience has finally mapped. It's not about escaping loneliness. It's about transmuting it. In 1512, Niccolò Machiavelli was dismissed from Florence, exiled to his farm, tortured by the Medici, stripped of everything he had built over a lifetime of political maneuvering. Most men would have collapsed into despair or begged for reinstatement. Machiavelli did neither. He established a ritual. During the day, he performed the mundane tasks of a farmer, tending animals, managing land, the work of a peasant forced upon a man who had once advised princes. But in the evening, something changed. He would return to his house, wash off the dirt, and change into his former official robes. The same robes he wore in the halls of Florence when he walked among the powerful. Then he entered his study to converse with the ancient masters, Livy, Tacitus, Thucydides. He read their works and wrote responses as if they were alive and speaking to him across centuries. This ritual served a crucial psychological function. It maintained his identity as a strategist even when his physical circumstances tried to reduce him to a peasant. And from that nightly ritual, from that deliberate isolation, emerged The Prince, which is one of the most influential political texts ever written. Had Machiavelli remained in Florence, caught up in political games and social performance, he would have died as a minor politician remembered by no one. Exile freed him from distraction. Isolation became his forge. This is the fundamental difference. The weak man builds a fortress to escape the world. The strong man builds a laboratory to understand it. And here's something the neuroscience confirms. The social monitoring system is not your enemy. It's a thermostat. And like any thermostat, it can be recalibrated. The monks who sit alone for decades in mountain monasteries have not eliminated the pain of isolation. They have reset the threshold. It's not willpower. It's systematic training. Every hour you choose solitude and emerge undestroyed resets the calibration. Your brain gradually learns a new truth. Isolation does not equal death. But when you re-emerge from that solitude stronger, something happens in the crowd. Something ancient and vicious. It's called tall poppy syndrome, an ancient social policing mechanism where any poppy that grows taller than the field gets its head cut off. In Livy's History of Rome, the tyrant Tarquin signaled which citizens to eliminate by sweeping a stick through his garden and decapitating the tallest poppies. The group understood immediately. Level the playing field by removing anyone who stands above. Here's the neuroscience that explains why this feels so personal. When someone in the group sees you succeeding where they cannot, their brain's pain centers activate. The same regions that fire when they stub their toe light up when they witness your advantage. Yet your success causes them physical discomfort. They're not attacking you out of strategy. They're attacking out of reflex. Their contempt is their wound bleeding. This is why you've been mocked, why you've been excluded, why you've been sabotaged by people who smiled to your face. Not because you're broken, but because your solitude threatens their performance. Your contentment alone is a silent indictment of their desperate need for the group. Their hatred is proof, not refutation, of your progress. So, how do you actually transmute loneliness into sovereignty? There's a framework, 4 stages. And unlike most self-help nonsense, each one has a specific action. The first stage is acknowledgement. Stop treating aloneness as a disease. Stop pathologizing it. Stop apologizing for it. Accept the void for what it is, raw material. But the second stage is excavation. This is where you sit with the fears you've been running from. What shadows have you hidden to maintain social acceptability? What truths have you suppressed to fit in? This is shadow work. 20 minutes of unedited journaling, where you let the darkness speak without editing it into something presentable. The third stage is integration. Take what you discover in the excavation and translate it into habits aligned with your truth, not social expectations. Stop building a life designed to impress people who don't think about you when you leave the room. The fourth stage is construction. Build a self that does not require witnesses. This is internal sovereignty. The throne is psychological. Your power does not depend on external validation, because you've constructed something that stands on its own. The diagnostic question is simple. Am I building in the silence, or am I hiding in it? Healthy solitude follows the laboratory model. It's construction-oriented. Avoidant isolation follows the fortress model. It's fear-oriented. Same isolation, opposite intention, opposite outcome. But understanding the transmutation is not the same as executing it. Machiavelli had his robes and his study. What does the modern sovereign's ritual actually look like? Here's the architecture, 4 pillars. First, the transition ritual. Machiavelli changed into his official robes before entering his study. The modern equivalent is changing your environment or attire to signal that strategic solitude mode is beginning. A dedicated space, specific hours, physical differentiation from leisure. This teaches your brain that solitude has structure, purpose, what and end. You're not just sitting alone. You're entering a laboratory. Second, the 20-minute excavation, unedited journaling where the shadow speaks. Ask yourself, what am I avoiding? What fear have I not faced? What truth have I not admitted? No performance, no editing, no concern for how it sounds. This is the albedo, the whitening of the soul by confronting the darkness. Third, the construction block. 1 hour of deliberate creation, writing, training, building, studying, not consuming, producing. This is the citrinitas, translating insight into tangible output. Every session should end with something that exists in the world that didn't exist before you sat down. Fourth, the evidence log. Document what you created. Without external validation, you lose track of growth. The log becomes your mirror, while objective proof that you are not stagnant. When rumination whispers that you're wasting time, you have evidence to silence it. Physical solitude does not require intellectual isolation. When you read Machiavelli, Marcus Aurelius, Schopenhauer, you are in dialogue across centuries. This connection cannot be taken from you by geography, by rejection, by circumstance. Build your library deliberately. Choose authors who challenge you, not confirm what you already believe. But here's the warning. The scroll that fills silent moments will destroy everything. The digital tethering that masquerades as alone time is the enemy. If your solitude is punctuated by notifications, you are not alone. You are evaluated. The social monitoring system never deactivates. 20 to 30 minutes of non-communication daily. No inputs, no outputs. Well, only the self. Solitude is a phase, not a permanent state. The monk who retreats to the mountain eventually returns to the valley. When you re-emerge, do so strategically. Not desperately seeking connection, but offering value. The perspective you gained, the skills you developed, the clarity you cultivated. People will sense that you are different. Neediness repels. Self-sufficiency is gravity. Here's what they will never teach you in any self-help book. Some people are meant to walk alone. Not forever, not completely, but essentially. They are not broken. They are not damaged. They are simply built for different conditions. The way some animals thrive in Arctic cold that would kill others. The way some plants grow in desert conditions that would wither a forest tree. Your constitution is different. And no amount of forcing yourself into the mold of the perpetually social will change that fundamental architecture. The question is not, how do I become less alone? The question is, what am I building while the crowd performs its desperate dance? Before you go, answer one question honestly. Not for me, for yourself. When you are alone tonight, and the silence begins to press in, what will you do? Will you reach for the phone, the scroll, the noise? Or will you sit in it and let the silence teach you what the crowd never could? Your answer is the difference between the one who builds a coffin and the one who builds a laboratory. You were never lonely because you were alone. You were lonely because you believed the lie that you shouldn't be. The crowd cannot hear what the silence is teaching you, but you can.